Okay, welcome everybody to the open session of the ordinary agenda meeting for the Tasman Council, Wednesday the 27th of May 2020. I declare the meeting open at 1:11 p.m. We respectfully acknowledge the original traditional custodians of this land, the Piedami people of the Paradimi language group. We respectfully acknowledge the Tasmanian Aboriginal communities and elders past, present and emerging. Just a reminder to everybody that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. During the COVID-19 pandemic emergency, Council will conduct ordinary council meetings using remote technologies and audio recordings will be made available to the public as soon as practical after each meeting via Council's website, except for any part held in closed session. No public attendance at the Council meeting during this period. However, questions can be sent and hopefully have been received at the latest at 5 p.m. on the 26th of May to the General Manager or to Council. So all the councillors are present, and we also have in attendance Kim Hossack, the General Manager, Lee Wilson, Office Manager, Melissa Geard, Building and Development Service Manager, Gavin Boyd, Infrastructure and Systems Manager, and Shane Wells, Contract Planning Officer. So welcome everybody. We have nil apologies. Call for declarations of pecuniary interests. We have nil declarations of pecuniary interests. I'll call for declarations of perceived. Sorry, Councillor Beard.
It didn't come off mute. I just want to raise that I have in the planning agenda, 12 Carabiner Court. I own a property that this application overlooks, so I won't be participating in that debate or the resolution. I'd also like to raise that in question time, I'm going to ask a question of the General Manager in respect to the footpath in Blowhole Road, and just noting that I'm actually have a property I own in Penzance Road, Eaglehawk Neck, but I will be participating in the discussion on that.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. So that's under the pecuniary interest or the perceived interest?
Sorry, was that a question, Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Beard, was that under the pecuniary interest or the perceived interest?
Perceived interest.
Thank you.
Pecuniary interest for planning, perceived for the discussion in question time.
Thank you. Can you assure that those declaration forms get to the General Manager as soon as possible, please?
Yep.
Any other declarations of perceived interests?
I'm going to declare one, as I've been making I've made some potential inquiries into the purchase of a food services business. It's only perceived at the moment, item 16.5. It's only perceived at the moment as it's only in the idea stage.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, I've actually got my property listed on the pecuniary interest form, so I don't need to. I wouldn't have thought I'd have to lodge another one.
Okay, is that fine, General Manager?
I believe Councillor Beard's referring to the third party disclosure form, and yes, that's fine.
Thank you. We'll move to correspondence in and out. Can I have a mover, please?
Moved.
Councillor Garrett. And a seconder?
Me, Pam.
Councillor Finnerty. So we're just moving that the correspondence listed on the agenda be accepted and noted. And I'll just go through, I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett.
I'm in favour.
Councillor Finnerty. Councillor Finnerty, you're on mute.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
That's a yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Thank you all. I'm in favour, carried unanimously. Okay, public question time. So General Manager, I believe that we haven't received any questions from the public at this stage.
No, we have not.
Thank you, General Manager. Councillor Beard, is this where you wish to ask yours?
No, that'll be questions without notice, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll move on to questions on notice. So listed in the agenda, as is there, questions on notice and the replies. And we'll move on to 8 questions with notice, without notice, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councillor Beard.
Just a quick one. Can the General Manager please give an update on the progress of design for Blowhole Road footpath? And if so, what consultation, and if the design has been completed, what consultation with residents has occurred?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask my Infrastructure Manager, Gavin, to start off the reply, and then I will follow. Over to you, Gavin, please.
Thanks, Kim. Through the Mayor. In relation to the Blowhole Road project, as I stated before in Council's workshop beforehand, I've only been in the role for about 6 weeks now. So I don't know all the history to the project, but we have a full survey has been done of the Blowhole Road area, and we now have design plans that have been completed and are effectively ready to go. Our Capital Works Manager, Simon Pulford, has been in contact with potential contractors, and we have a contractor who is basically ready to go for the project. And so effectively the plans are as were sent out to councillors I think a week ago. I'm not totally sure the exact date. So that's where we sit at the moment. We have the plans available. The site has been surveyed. However, I'm not across what consultation has happened in the past in relation to the project.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just follow on. Just beforehand, we've got some background noise. Could people pop themselves on mute, please? Thank you. Following on from Gavin's comments, consultation, as explained before, this had come about through a petition that was done back in 2016. and brought forward by the councillors at that time. It has been on our works in progress plan for the capital works for the last 2 years, and it's finally coming to fruition. So it was done via, I believe consultation is done via the actual petition. True consultation of individual residents at this point in time haven't been done, as I believed it was done previously. But of course, we can always go out and consult others at any time, and it is something that we do need to address moving forward to have a more consistent approach.
Thank you, General Manager.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr Mayor, may I move a motion, please?
Councillor Beard, I don't believe this is the appropriate section. However, I will allow it under 10 motion on notice today, as you did notify before the meeting started. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Just noting though that we did this at the last meeting exactly the same. So, but I'm happy for it to go under that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Applications for leave of absence. I have Neil. So we'll move on to motions on notice. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've just got to flick screens and read it because I haven't got chat, so just excuse me. So the motion that I'm putting is in regards to the footpath, and I'm hoping that it gets a seconder so they can elaborate on the reasons why. But the motion reads, Council consider a second option for alignment of the footpath proposal between Waterfall Bay Road and the beach crossing west of Penzance Road. That the report set out the benefits and disadvantages of each option, that safety be considered in the review, that consultation take place for a 2-week period presenting both options, and works not commence until Council receives and considers a report presenting both options.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Griffiths, seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. We'll start the debate. Councillor Beard.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll try and, well, I will keep it brief because I know there's fairly firm views in regards to what should happen, but we'll see if we can persuade you. I did note in the declarations that I'm a property owner of 41 Penzance Road, Eaglehawk Neck, but I will also note that I wasn't party to the original petition or a member of council when it was considered. I also would like it noted that I advocated strongly for Dewtown footpath to be constructed, as I saw it was the biggest priority for the municipality in the way of separation of traffic from pedestrians. I advised some months back that a petition calling for pedestrian safety improvements was considered by council, and this, as you rightly noted, was 2016, so several years ago, and it was for the area that is currently being discussed. So therefore, I basically went along with the majority in dealing with this matter before we deal with the bigger Dewtown issues. I've requested many times over the past 12 months to view the alignment, as many residents were asking as to what was happening and where the alignment was to be. Finally, after several months, received a copy on Friday the 15th of May from the General Manager, and I provided comment back following consultation with a number of residents on the 20th of May. I do note from the previous question without notice that consultation has been deemed to be the petition itself, which is a one-way consultation, basically a petition presented to council saying we need something done. The alignment is a very important consideration in any consultation, I believe. I point out that there is no road reserve on the northern side of the road that is sufficient, in my view, to safely build a footpath and separate the pedestrians from the traffic. The footpath, as proposed, will have pedestrians accessing the beach some 800 metres or so with their back to the traffic on the road verge. The predominant area of pedestrian catchment is the Penzance village. There is sufficient road reserve on the southern side to create a safe pathway for pedestrians. A pathway on the southern side will encourage pedestrians to go the safest point for crossing, whether they be going east or west. Consultation, as I mentioned, I don't believe has been significant enough for such a project of, I suppose, need within that small catchment. The reason I raise this is that this project is predominantly for safety of pedestrians, and I repeat that, it's for safety of pedestrians. So that's the main priority. It's not a tourist walk, which can be considered under another proposal. This is about getting people safely from one point to another and a crossing, and I believe that a second option is feasible. I'll leave it to the engineers to obviously do the research, but all I'm asking for in the motion is that this second option be considered, that the pros and cons of both be put into a report for council, and then it be brought back to council and particularly presented in a way that safety is considered strongly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Beattie. Councillor Griffiths.
Yes, I seconded this motion for a couple of reasons. Number one is that I fully appreciate what Councillor Beard is referring to with regards to the safety of that project. I note that there is no intention for this project not to proceed and no intention for it not to proceed in the very near future. And so because this original petition came up 4 years ago, I think the investigation that Councillor Beard is asking for, if it takes a couple of months, is in no way detrimental to the operation, considering it's 4 years old. I think we have a duty of care to the residents of the whole community, not just Eaglehawk Neck, the whole community, to spend their money in a very wise and safe manner for all of the residents. And the other thing that I mentioned that concerns me is that because this is now obviously out in the community, that if as a council we don't address these issues in the proper manner, that we could well open ourselves up to a public liability lawsuit for not addressing possible safety issues that they've raised. That's all from me.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Any other councillors?
I'm happy to support the motion for the reasons that Andy Councillor Griffiths said. It's actually written on my notes. I note that we're not stopping the project, we're just seeking further information to ensure that the project's carried out effectively.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Any other councillors?
Yes, I would like to say that I absolutely oppose this motion, and I'm very, very disappointed because this is questioning the operational capabilities of this council in drawing up these designs. This has been extensively consulted via an act at various meetings, drawings of the path, they've been around for years. I'm just gobsmacked with this, that this has even been raised today. This needs to be gotten on with immediately. So I am extremely disappointed that the operational capabilities of this council have been questioned.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. Councillor Stacey or Councillor Barwick?
I can't support this motion either. For reasons I will list, the plans have been prepared and it's ready to go. It will be much more expensive because of the driveways on the side of the road that Councillor Beard is proposing. The Anat footpath will not link to it, so I'm not sure what you do about that. And I dispute safety, as I think it would be more dangerous for pedestrians walking on the footpath whilst property owners are entering or leaving their driveways/properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barwick. Deputy Mayor, would you like to comment at all?
And look, it seems to me that perhaps that council, we didn't do a lot of consultation in the planning phase of the project. Obviously, we had the petition back in the day, and the petition was about the unsafe situation on Blowhole Road due to the lack of a footpath. And so obviously from there, council decided that we needed to address that issue. But look, you know, I think we really should have gone out and consulted a bit more widely with the people in that immediate area, the people who are going to use the footpath. And it appears that that's what Councillor Beard has done somewhat over the last little while. I believe that Councillor Beard had been asking for some plans, and I don't know that he was asking necessarily for detailed drawings, perhaps just an indication of what was intended with the footpath. And he'd been asking for that for some months, quite some months. And as we know, it only came to us last week as almost the fait accompli. It's now the full design, but and follow on from that, he'd gone and spoken to a few people in the immediate area, and obviously they have raised concerns. So I think in Councillor Beard's motion, he's suggesting that we do a report. We're delaying this by a couple of weeks. He's suggesting that a 2-week consultation take place, and it might take a month perhaps for us to get to the end of it. But I think it would be good just to go out and chat to the residents. You know, it's their footpath, it's their money we're spending as well, and we just need to make sure we get it right.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, I've got some big concerns with anything that will delay this any further. My understanding is that the plans are ready to go. Council has already spent money on surveys and work on getting all these plans drawn up and ready to go. I've also got a few concerns. Councillor Beard has notified us this week that he's done some consultation over the weekend, but the plans that he initially sent to council last Wednesday morning stated, well, I assumed as when I received them that they were for him personally, and then this week we've got an email saying that they're from community consultation, which he stated happened over the weekend. So look, I'm just concerned that we need to move forward on this, and the fact that we're questioning council work that has already been done. My understanding is that we've discussed this in workshops loosely, and I thought all councillors had the understanding that the works were being on that side of the road closest to the beach, so that then that will link into future proposed works that ENACT have extensively consulted with in the community in that area. As far as the safety goes, and talking about which way pedestrians are facing into traffic, footpaths have traffic walkways both directions, so it doesn't matter which side of the road the pathway is on. At some stage, people are going to have their backs to the traffic as they're travelling through. And I should hope that if it goes ahead as and where it is at the moment, we are looking further at road conditions on Blowhole Road, and we've agreed as a council that that is an area that we want to look at further, whether that's about widening the road or reducing the speed limit for safety. I thought this is something that we had talked about extensively, and General Manager, have I missed anything else there with council's involvement so far?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I believe you've addressed everything. Ultimately, it's up to council how we proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Councillor Beard, would you like to finish up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First point I'd make is I challenge you in respect to questioning my integrity. I did say prior to this meeting that I sent the email twice because I actually got a bounce back and just forwarded it on. So the consultation did take place, and as a result of that consultation, that's what I sent through. But I do object to questioning my integrity. In regards to Councillor Stacey's comments, yes, that's all I was after, was the alignment of the road, not the detailed design. And it did take until the 15th to get that through, and I responded within 5 days. And this is after this project's been on the table for some 4 to 5 years, at least being considered. I'm certainly not dismissing the design that was done, so if anybody's read into the fact that I'm questioning the design, they're completely wrong. The design has been done, and I don't know what the brief that was given to the designers were. All I'm asking for is an expansion of that brief to look at options on the southern side of the road, as I believe that will be a safer option for pedestrians. In regards to tying this to the ENAC proposal, again, I think this is drawing a long straw. The petition was given, it was submitted 4 years ago. The ENAC proposals have come through some time after that, and the petition was in the framework of us addressing the pedestrian safety issues. It had nothing to do with ENAC and and I suppose the exercise tourist footway. This is for, and I just reiterate it again, this is about pedestrian safety. And to say that a footpath on one side of the road versus on the other side of the road isn't comparable. It's only comparable if they're the exact same distance apart. On the southern side of the road, the footpath will be up against the verge of the road. On the northern side of the road, which is proposed. On the southern side, there is ample road reserve, like ample, well in excess of what a normal road reserve would be, to put a footpath in. So I just think, you know, again, I'm not sure of what the overall brief was. I know the brief from the petition is about safety. All I'm asking for is let's have a look at the other option. Let's talk to the residents and communicate, and then bring it back to council. And look, I'm not fussed if it goes one way or the other, but I do want both options considered.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. I'll put it to the vote. So, Councillor Beard.
Favour.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty.
Against, and I'm very disappointed in this council.
Councillor Barwick.
Against.
Councillor Garrett.
I'm in favour, thank you.
Sorry, just double checking. I'm against, but the vote is carried. Okay, we'll move on to confirmations of the minutes. Minutes of the ordinary meeting held 22nd of April 2020. We do have one amendment to the minutes, and that is just in a motion that we moved into planning. The mover I had was down as, sorry, the mover was the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Garrett. In the minutes, it just is reported as Deputy Mayor and Councillor Finnerty. So long as everybody's agreeable to that change, can I have a mover to receive the minutes, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Griffiths, so moved.
I've got Councillor Finnerty moved and Councillor Griffiths second. Councillor Finnerty, did you have anything else?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Griffiths?
No, not at this stage, thank you.
Any other councillors have any amendments? Okay, I'll put that to the vote, that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, the 22nd of April 2020 be confirmed. Councillor Finnerty? Councillor Kennedy, is that a yes?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
That's a yes. So carried. Move on to 12, notification of council workshops. There's an extensive list there of what was covered and who attended. Supplementary items, we don't have any supplementary items. So councillor reports are the Mayor's report. The Mayor's report's listed. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Barwick and a seconder.
I
Seconded.
will.
Councillor Garrett. So we're just receiving the report. If nobody has any questions, we'll keep moving. Councillor Barwick, you're happy?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Kennedy.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
No, yes. Carried. Do any other councillors have any reports?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just I met with the Port Arthur Community Group, and really, I suppose there wasn't a lot in the meeting other than, you know, Port Arthur's obviously working through its issue in respect to cash flow. As the salaries are backed by government, it's not a big issue in respect to, I suppose, solvency, although solvency is not quite the right word. But there are a lot of pressures on there, and you know, my heart goes out to them. The other thing that's happening is there's a lot of thought about what is Port Arthur, you know, post the opening of the restrictions, and I suppose what can be done. There was some talk about how businesses can sort of leverage off each other to make the whole area rebuild. But yeah, that was the general essence of the meeting, and I'm sure there'll be more detail later on.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you. I attended the Copping Joint Authority meeting. It was an online meeting. It was also attended by the Mayor and the General Manager. There was some discussion around the strategic plan and the business plan and the budget and the impact of COVID. And it was also, in some good news, we spoke about an in-kind support package for not-for-profit organisations that are impacted by COVID, particularly op shops that are getting inappropriate donations. So that was good to hear.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Interesting to note that the volumes have changed a little bit since it's been COVID's been happening. So, Councillor Griffiths.
Yes, I've had some meetings and some discussions with Tasman Business and Tourism Association. I believe that association and council have a really big role to play as you know, a partnership in the way to go forward, not only for the recovery from COVID-19, but in the future and ongoing. It's becoming a fairly strong association. I believe there's in excess of 50 business owners on the books now with that organisation. But for obvious reasons, they've been stymied the last few months. I'm having a discussion with Mark Etheridge this afternoon around what we might be able to do with regards to what do they call it, social media, etc. So that'll be an interesting discussion. I've got some ideas on that I actually pinched from somebody else, but it doesn't matter, good ideas, and they're meant to be shared. But what I would like to do to flag with you is that hopefully the next council meeting will be a face-to-face meeting rather than this format, although I quite like this format. And if that's the case, I'd like to, if we can, to invite Mark Etheridge along to the workshop and to perhaps outline some ideas that his organisation has that council can be a party to, and so that we can look at you know, some pathways forward together. So that's pretty much where they're at the moment. I just have one question to Kim, if I can. Kim, did we get back to TBTA? I know they had some ideas around toilets and things up on the top of Neck Hill. Last time I spoke to Mark, he hadn't had an answer. Do you know if you've addressed that with him?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I have. I've emailed Mark. Mark and I have gone backwards and forwards. Yes, he had several ideas. Yes, about the Pirates Bay Lookout and toilets, the old signs around the place down at Port Arthur, and a few other issues. I've emailed him back on all of those, and yes, from last time. So, and I believe, yes, it would be a good idea to get them in to have a discussion face to face.
Yeah, look, they've got some really good ideas, and you know, I had to pull one of them up last meeting, in fact, because they were referring to the gateway to the peninsula as being the Eaglehawk Neck Hill and the lookout, and I did suggest to them that the gateway to the Tasman Peninsula is just on the southern side of the Dunalley Bridge, and it includes Madonna. So, you know, you've got to do a bit of correcting of them sometimes, but that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Can I have a mover that we accept those reports, please?
Moved.
And a seconder?
Second.
Seconded.
So moved Councillor Garrett and seconded Councillor Beard. Did anyone have any questions to any of the councillors? If not, I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett?
In favour.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
And I'm in favour, so carried. Thank you, everyone. Move on to 15, Council acting as a planning authority. I'd advise in accordance with the provisions of Part 2, Regulation 25 of the Local Government's Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, the intention of Council to act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 is to be noted. In accordance with Regulation 25, the Council will act as a planning authority in respect to those matters appearing under item 15 on this agenda, inclusive of any supplementary items. Can I have a mover that we move in Council act as a planning authority?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty and a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Garrett? Put that to the vote. Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Yes. Carried. And so we'll move on to 15.1, 12 Caribbean Court, addition to dwelling deck. Councillor Beard, you're sitting out of this one, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, did you want me to put up the new recommendation that our planner has emailed to all to share on the screen for all?
Yes, please, if you can share that.
Thank you. Can you please confirm that you can see the amended recommendation, please?
I can see it.
Yes.
see it.
I can see it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Excuse
General
me,
Manager.
General Manager, can you scroll down just a little bit, please? I can't see the end of number 3.
Yes, General Manager, if you can actually just scroll through so it's recorded. All the councillors have been sent this. So this is actually, if you can just scroll through for the recording of the meeting, please. Okay, thank you, General Manager. So can I have a mover, please?
Oh, I'll move it.
Councillor Finnerty. And a seconder?
Yes,
I'll
Deputy Mayor, I think that was you.
Might have just pipped the post.
Thank you. Councillor Finnerty.
There's been a lot of detail about this. I've been up on site several times from the Caribbean Court end and from the Boone Place, and I've read the representations. I've read the applicants' request for the development application to be approved. I've read the fact that there's been a meeting on site with various officers, including the mayor. I've read that there's been a meeting between the applicant and the representors, and now we have an amended motion, which I believe reads well, and it seems to be to fulfil all the requirements, the concerns of the requirements of the planning scheme, the concerns of the representors, and I must say that given the block and the appearance of it from the photos and going and having a look, that this will be an improvement to the area. So I support the recommendations and in particular the amended motion, which I have read today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. Deputy Mayor.
No, I'm pretty much the same as Councillor Finnerty. I'm satisfied that, especially the consultation that's taken place to get to this point, and noting that we have the new points 2 and 3 are the additions to the recommendation that's in the agenda, and I'm satisfied that obviously our planner is supporting that this go ahead. So I'm happy to accept that recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other councillors? Councillor Griffiths?
Yes. Sorry, yes. Look, as long as, to my mind, as long as people's privacy is under full consideration here and satisfied, then I have no objection.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. We do have Shane available if there was any other questions. Okay, if there's no other questions for Shane, I'll put the motion as it appears on the screen. Councillor Finnerty?
Yes, and we didn't do my closing thing, Councillor Mayor, but that's all right. It's no different to how I started off as a point. I approve.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. You're more than welcome to say anything else you need to now.
No.
Deputy Mayor?
For, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
In favour, thank you.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
I think that leaves me as a yes, so that is carried. Thank you. Moving out of planning, the council is no longer acting as a planning authority and resume the ordinary council meeting. Can I have a mover, please?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty, and a seconder.
Seconded.
Councillor Garrett. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
And yes. It's carried. We'll move on to 16, department reports, regulatory services reports and other reports following. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Beard. And a seconder.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor. Councillor Beard, any comments?
Just the comments I'll make, and then I've got a question. The comments just in regards to Lynn Street, that's programmed to start, so that's great news. The question I have is for the General Manager. I got contacted a week or so ago, I think it was a week ago, just in regards to drainage works that were done up on Fire Tower Road, and the drain was cut into the pavement. So just an update for me as to where that one's at, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I received that message from you earlier this week, Councillor Beard. Council depot staff are doing routine maintenance of pulling the drains. I believe at this stage, Javi, our work supervisor, was going up to check the whole road. At this stage, I don't believe the road pavement has been touched. It shouldn't be, but we are further investigating at this point. It might be more of a perception because it's now clean and the drains either side are now clean, that it may appear to be narrower than what it is.
Thank you. That's all I've got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Deputy Mayor.
Look, I've nothing really to say. It's an excellent work happening, of course, across the whole, all areas. Again, particularly I note the NRM. Good news about some grant applications and more grant applications on the way. Thank you for the information about the National Volunteer Week, and I think that was a terrific initiative. And obviously all very, very worthy people noted there. I had the Pearls Court affordable housing units complete, other than the landscaping and fencing. That must be getting close. And was there a proposal to start advertising for people to go in? May I ask the General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, now that it is getting very close visually with people, we are receiving a lot of calls. I know our Community Development Officer has taken quite a few calls of late, and we're just advising they need to be on the appropriate list, etc., because it'll be prioritised, you know, via the Department of Housing priority list, but it is getting some attention, very much so.
Good.
Which is good.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other councillors got any questions? Okay, thank you. It seems like we're still achieving quite a lot of things, even under these COVID conditions. So it's very good to see that things aren't being interrupted too much as we get back to normal. I'll put the vote. Councillor Beard.
Favour.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett,
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, carried. Monthly finance report at the 30th of April 20. Monthly finance report the 30th of April to be received. Can I have a mover, please?
Moved.
Councillor Garrett, and a seconder.
Happy to second.
Councillor Beard. Councillor Garrett.
No questions from me, thank you.
Councillor Beard.
No questions, but can we have just a report, please, in the next agenda, just on Stornley Road and Pearl Street, because they were fairly large projects, and just getting a wrap up now that they're coming to a completion in respect to the total overall cost, and yeah, and that's it. And I suppose the success of the project, what we've achieved, will be a good one for the annual report.
Pearls Court, I assume you're saying, Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Any other councillors? Okay, well, going through the figures, it looks like we're not actually going too bad, even with the amount of revenue we've got coming in. The rates are a little bit behind, but that is to be expected under the current circumstances, but there's nothing substantial there that's too scary. So thank you, General Manager. I'll put that to the vote.
Done.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, so it's carried. We'll move on to 16.3. The audit panel. Can I have a mover, please?
I'm happy to move it. Oh, unless one of the audit panel people want to.
Move, Councillor Finnerty. Can I have a seconder?
No?
Happy to second.
I'll second.
Seconded, Councillor Beard. Councillor Finnerty.
Look, I served on the audit panel for a couple of years while it was at Sorell, and it was held one panel group after another with Sorell Council and then Tasman with some similar members on it from the independent side of things. I think this is quite a reasonable idea to just have one independent member and two councillors. And this is under the statute. This is under the statutory requirement. This is sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. Councillor Beard.
No, nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other councillors wish to comment?
As a member of the audit panel, I will comment. I guess I'm not 100% convinced that one independent member is sufficient, but I'm prepared to go with it for the time being. And given that we can always go back and revisit, and of course this is basically in place for 1 year, so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If there's no other comments, Councillor Finnerty, anything to wind up?
No.
I'll put it to the vote. Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so it's carried. 16.4 council allowances 2021.
I'd like to move a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Move, councillor Beard.
Seconded.
No, hang on. I'd like to move a motion. I'm not moving the recommendation. I'd like to move a motion.
Sorry.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. I would suggest that we move the motion first because it does say to debate the matter and decision. And then as soon as that's opened up, then I would suggest councillor Beard to come in with a motion to...
Mr. Mayor, and just in regards to that, as discussed by our lawyers when we had the last workshop, that is only a recommendation that sits on the agenda, and the councillor puts a motion, which I have done.
Thank you, General Manager and Councillor Beard. My understanding is that we have to at least move to discuss an item before another motion can be put. So we need to move to discuss before a motion.
I believe that's incorrect, Mr. Mayor.
That's also my understanding.
Councillor Beard can move the motion.
Yeah.
Can we at least move a motion to discuss, and then if an emotion comes forward,
Mr. Mayor, again, haven't heard what the motion is, but I can move the motion, and then someone can do an amendment to the motion, which could be that council debate the matter, and then that's debated, and then we come back to the original motion. But you have to hear what my motion is first.
well, at this stage, my understanding of it is, and I can be proved wrong later on, but at this stage we've got a recommendation there that council debate this matter, and then we can formalise a motion after that. So can I have a mover that we start the discussion?
Yes, I'll move
Mr. Mayor, you're incorrect, and you need to seek clarification from the General Manager. As I said, this is a way forward. You can still achieve what you're after, but just go through the proper process.
Point of order, the Mayor is the chairperson of this meeting.
Councillor Fennerty has moved that we move into the discussion. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, how can you have another motion when I've alerted that I'm putting a motion forward? I don't understand why you're putting one councillor above another councillor in regards to this matter.
Point of order, the Mayor is the chairperson.
Councillor Beard, as from our discussions last week, I believe this is the correct process. I now give Councillor Fennerty and Barwick a chance to speak, and then if you wish to move an amended motion, then it goes over to you if we can get a seconder for that. General Manager, is that...
Mr. Mayor, I seek clarification from the General Manager, who would have the meeting procedures at hand. And then after you...
Yes, I do have the meeting procedures at hand.
Chair.
At the same time, the chair of the meeting does have the option to accept a motion or not to be debated. So at this point in time, I will leave it with the chairperson to decide whether that's accepted or not.
Yeah, just in regards to that, General Manager, the Mayor hasn't even given me the grace to actually say what my motion was. He's just dismissed me outright and gone to someone else.
ultimately it's up to the chairperson. I suppose normally, because it's the actual motion is to debate and for a decision, there is the intent that it will be fully discussed. An opportunity will be there. We're not sort of changing that motion.
My last go, and I'll shut up. There's a recommendation there. It's not a motion. I have said I'd like to move a motion, Mr. Mayor. The Mayor's asked for a seconder without even hearing what the motion is. There was a seconder, and now he's gone straight to another councillor to actually approve another motion. So I just think it's wrong, but I'll go along with the Chair's decision in regards to this, because it's not major what I'm going to put forward, but for the sake of moving forward, I'm happy to go with the Chairman, the Mayor, but I would like it recorded that I believe that the process is incorrect.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. As we have discussed before, we'll be having more meeting procedure training. At this stage, Councillor Fennerty has moved and Councillor Barwick has seconded what is on the agenda. I will allow them to have their say and then you to put up an amended motion. Councillor Fennerty.
Well, look, to me, this is a no-brainer regarding our allowances under the current circumstances. I am, as a particular councillor, I am happy now. What was it, to contemplate foregoing their automatic 2021 councillor allowance annual increase. So I am happy to support that. I think that's in line with other behaviours that we're undergoing with not supporting things like rates and fees that we're about to debate in order to take the impost off the community, and the costs here are approximately $3,400. So I'm happy to do that. Now, our councillor actual allowances are legislated, aren't they, under the Local Government Act themselves. Anyway, I'm happy just to accept this background that's been given. It's a simple matter to me.
Thank you, Councillor Fennerty. Councillor Barwick.
Yeah, look, I haven't got much to say, although something did just occur to me. Should we wait and see if this is going to be a statewide thing? There was a talk about approaching Legat, and because, as Councillor Fennerty said, it is legislated. Are the government going to say, well, we're not going to actually increase your council's allowance for a year, because they actually decide on how much we receive? That's more.
I'd like to move an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Beard.
The amendment is that councillors determine individually whether to forego allowances, and I have some reasons for that, so I would really appreciate a seconder and it'll make sense.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Can you just read that one out again?
That councillors individually determine whether to forego the increase in allowances.
Increase.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Of course.
Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Beard.
Very quickly, there's just a few points. Number one is that across the whole of Tasmania, councils have taken up different options. So they haven't all gone, we will do it and we won't. A lot of the smaller councils have not moved this, and some of the larger ones. Councillor Barwick is correct in regards to it's legislated. Therefore, I think the easiest way to do it is to actually individually determine whether we forego or not, which I'm personally happy to do. And then that would be reported anyway in the annual report. So it basically ticks the boxes in regards to we can go back to our ratepayers and say that there has been a saving and it's in the annual report. Councillors that aren't as fortunate as I am to have a job certainly may rely on the allowance. So, and it is a very, very, very small allowance. So I just think it's up to the individuals, and we take it from there. So that's the reason why the motion is put.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Deputy Mayor.
No, I actually support that concept. I think it's a good way forward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other councillors?
Yes. Look, initially I supported the initial recommendation, but in actual fact, Councillor Beard's motion, it serves to be able to make your own decision rather than making a carpet decision for everybody. And, you know, we don't all know what one another's individual financial circumstances are. So I'm happy to support that motion on that basis, and I'm happy to forego the pay increase as well, incidentally.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Any other councillors? Councillor Kennedy?
We've always had the option not to take council allowances. I recall back in the massacre days, in fact, quite a few councillors did not take their allowances at all because this community was hit as an individual small community. It wasn't this is an Australia-wide thing or planetary-wide thing that's going on at the moment. So we've always had that option not to take our allowances or to give money back. I guess you can give it back. I think just for the accountancy's sake of the council, I would have been happy to have not taken, just to have said, right, we won't take the increase in allowances to perhaps make it easier for the accounting. I thought this suggestion here was simple, and you, any time, if you're well enough off or the money means nothing to you, you don't have to have your allowance.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Any other councillors? Okay. Well, I guess I was sort of looking at a fairly simple motion, not saying that yours isn't a simple motion, Councillor Beard. I would have liked to have probably seen it to read that we would all just agree to a freeze in our rise. As has been pointed out, that at any stage a councillor can choose not to take their allowance, and that is up to the individual councillor. This was actually just a way I could see it would have been nice to agree as a whole council not to take that rise up until the 30th of June next year, 21. And at the end of the day, it's not a huge amount of money. It was just actually probably a good way of showing some leadership in the community that we as leaders aren't going to take the extra money. We'll take the bit of extra pain, the same as all the community is feeling at the moment. So that's all I have to add. Councillor Beard, back to you. Councillor Beard, you're on silent still at the moment.
Yeah, the difference, sorry, Mr Mayor, the difference between, there's no motion in the put other than what I've got there and the one that we've previously got on the table. But the difference between this and what you're suggesting is that what you're suggesting forces everyone into the same boat. And we don't know what personal circumstances that people are under. And many of us might lose our jobs tomorrow. We don't know. So I think to have it, and it is, as Councillor Kennedy pointed out, it is really a determination of a councillor where they forego or not. And I know a number of councillors put money into the arts, put money into projects, etc. So I just think the blanket doesn't really take everyone's circumstances into effect.
Correct.
We debated this, or not debated, but we talked about this at the workshop, and I don't think anybody was against giving up their increase in allowance. But one of us might resign and someone comes in and they're dependent on it. So I just think locking us in is really not smart. And as I said, it's quite easy from an administrative point of view. It's just write an email to the GM and say, my allowance don't include the increase. That's easy. And it'll be reported in the annual report. So and the community can do a freedom of information anytime they want. So I just don't see any issue with it. So thanks for all the comments.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Beard.
Favour.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I'm in favour.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes, I'm in favour.
Councillor Garrett.
I'm in favour too.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes, I'm in favour.
Councillor Finnerty. Councillor Finnerty, you're on mute.
Could you just quickly read the motion again? So I know what I'm doing.
Councillor Beard, can you just repeat that one back?
That's the job of the General Manager, Mr Mayor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I have Councillor Beard moved, Councillor Stacey seconded that for an amendment that individual councillors can determine to forego their annual increases.
Thank
Thank
you, General
you.
Manager. Councillor
And the
Finnerty.
minute taker will have more detail than that, but that's what I've written down.
Councillor Finnerty, do you support or not support?
I don't know. It's messy. I don't like it. What can I say? I want to do the right thing by the community. I'm going to abstain because it won't make any difference. I'm going to abstain.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. So I'll vote in favour of it because I believe it's probably in the right direction. So we carried and Councillor Finnerty has abstained. Okay, we'll move on to...
Just
Mr Mayor, that's the substantive motion.
Oh, hang on. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. So that is now the motion. I'll re-put that. Councillor Beard.
In favour.
Deputy Mayor.
yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty.
In this case, I'll say yes, because there's no other choice.
Yes, so it's carried unanimously. We'll move on to 16.5. Waiving of fees associated with curbside vendor licence. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move it for the sake of moving it. No one else.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty, and a seconder.
I'll second for the sake of getting it on the table.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Finnerty.
My concern, and I'll note that we did have a brief discussion about mobile vendors in the community in general during our workshop. I think what has to happen is we have to have consistency with charging of fees and dealing with people, and we have to have a policy and a program. I'm not in favour of waiving the amount for 3 months because of otherwise we will have to do that for every other single person that comes along. We might have a large number of vendor licensees in this community down the track. We somehow rather have to raise revenue, and people are earning revenue. The rest of us, other people who have premises, have to pay rates. They have to pay rent. They have to pay all these other charges. They have to pay development applications and so forth and so forth. I'm just looking at these amounts. They're not I don't believe they're particularly onerous anyway for a business. I mean, it's just part of running a business. So, from my point of view, I'm not in favour of doing this, because I want to be consistent across how we deal with people, and I don't want to set any precedents.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. Deputy Mayor.
I couldn't have said it better, actually, Councillor Finnerty. They were exactly my thoughts. So I won't be supporting the motion because for all of those reasons already stated.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other councillors wish to comment?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I had some words to say about this in the workshop. I don't want to take up any more time. Totally agree with the mover and seconder. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. If there's no other comments, Councillor Finnerty, would you like to finish up?
Oh, I don't think there's anything else. I can chat. There's no other views. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put it to the vote. Councillor Finnerty?
Well, I'm against, aren't I? Is that right? Yes, against waiving the curbside vendor licence. Is that correct? Resolves to waiver. No, I don't want to waiver it.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. Deputy Mayor?
I'm against the motion. I'm against the recommendation, so yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Beard?
Against the motion.
Councillor Griffiths?
I'm against.
Councillor Garrett?
Against the motion.
Councillor Barwick?
Against.
Also against. So the motion is lost. We'll move on to 16.6, fees and charges.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Griffiths?
Excuse me, Mr Mayor. Yes, sorry, I did raise my hand, but you didn't see it. I just wanted to flag with you that I have to leave the meeting in about 2 or 3 minutes before you go into the next item.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. We'll make a note when you disappear off the screen.
Thank you.
Fees and charges, that council resolves to approve fees and charges scheduled for 2020-21. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
It was Councillor Barwick and Deputy Mayor. Councillor Barwick?
No, I don't think there's any comment to make, Mr Mayor. They're the same as last year's. Obviously, we're keeping them the same due to the COVID-19 crisis, so I don't think there's any comment to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barwick. Deputy Mayor?
Same comment from me. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to comment?
Well, we made
Yes.
this. Oh, we just made a motion last month, did we not, that we wouldn't be increasing fees? And this motion is in line with that.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. Councillor Beard was.
Yeah, I'm obviously in favour of the motion, and it's sort of carte blanche anyway. But I do note that a lot of the fees are pretty low, and I know that some of those costs of services have gone up considerably. So just in preparation for 12 months' time, just a good review. Some can come down, by the way, in my view, but just a good look. And I suppose even looking against other municipalities as well, a bit of benchmarking would be great. But it is just a fait accompli, so move on.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Barwick, anything else?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Not, I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Barwick?
In favour.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
In favour.
Councillor Griffiths?
I'm in favour.
Councillor Garrett?
In favour.
Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Yes, so that's passed unanimously. Carried unanimously. Any other general business? There's no general business. I'll move on. Councillor Griffiths left the meeting at 2:30. Is that correct?
No response was a stern reply, so I guess you can assume so.
All right, sorry, I was just writing it down, making a note of it. Authorisation to close to the public. Can I have a mover, please?
Yes.
Sorry, was that Councillor Garrett and seconded Councillor Finnerty?
Oh, that'll do.
That'll do.
I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett?
It wasn't me that moved it, but all good. Yes, I'm in favour.
You did now move it. Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, so carried. So we'll now stop the recording and move into closed. General Manager is going to stop the recording and start another recording.
I think earphones.
Just hang on a moment, please. Stop.